everyone. Welcome back to Womansplain. Today we have an incredible guest, Saher Hussaini. She is the founder of SYI, pronounced SYI, but stands for Set Your Intention Acupuncture, an incredible acupuncture business, and also, is inspired by the tenets of traditional Chinese medicine. I personally went and got acupuncture from her, which was a new experience and it was honestly incredible. It at least took my stress down from a 10 to a 9, so it was really impressive. I'm really excited to learn about her story today. I'm gonna pass it over to her, and then we're gonna dive in.
Alrighty. Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having
Thanks
me.
Thank
for
you so much for
having me.
coming. We're so
Yeah.
excited to have you.
I'm very excited to be here. I'm
Yeah.
Saher. Like they said, I am the owner, founder of Set Your Intention Acupuncture in Nomad. And I'm just kind of experiencing being a female founder in New York City.
Yeah, it's
That's
a good
amazing.
place to be. And I also got acupuncture from you last night and I slept like a baby,
Oh my gosh, I'm
which
so
was
glad to hear
much
that.
needed because I was like, I've been running on like 5 hours of sleep. I need to
Mhm.
go to bed. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Well, let's just start with, set your intention acupuncture
Yeah.
and tell us about just the business and what kind of services you offer.
Yeah, so it is a full traditional Chinese medicine practice where I offer the full scope. So we do acupuncture, I prescribe herbs, I'll do cupping, moxibustion, gua sha, a lot of like lifestyle dietary guidance based on the principles of Chinese medicine. And then I also have a really beautiful like outside area, which you guys saw when you came in, where I host a lot of like wellness events. So that's where I really get to explore the industry of wellness and kind of merge my Ayurvedic background with my professional studies of traditional Chinese medicine.
That's
Great.
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean,
And
there's
I
so much to unlock.
Yeah.
I know, incredible.
Yeah.
And I know that you had your own difficult health journey that kind
Yeah.
of brought you to traditional Chinese medicine, even though you are coming from a family of traditional doctors,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Would love to hear about that and what your journey was like and how that led to where you are today.
Yeah. So it pretty much started back in my early 20s. I just graduated college. And out of nowhere, I developed adult onset cystic acne pretty much all over my face, all over my chest. It was quite painful, quite intense. This was something that I'd never experienced before. So I kind of did what anybody would think to do. And I started off with just getting a couple facials, seeing if that would work. Didn't work. So then I was referred to traditional doctors. So then I started going to the dermatologist. They started me on rounds of antibiotics at first. Those weren't working after about 6 months. So then we kind of upped the ante, increased the dosage, increased the type of medicine. And then by the end of it, I was pretty much left with not only acne that wasn't going away, but also gut issues. I developed the onset of an ulcer.
Oh my
Pretty
God. At what,
intense.
Oh my
24?
I was
gosh.
23.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so at this point, and TMI, but I also had things going on the other way. And so I had to go to like a GI doctor. I was told that I needed an endoscopy. There was just so much
Gosh.
going on for like my little 23-year-old self. So then at this point, a good friend and colleague of mine, who actually is a doctor of Chinese medicine as well out in Long Island, suggested that I go and visit her traditional Chinese medicine doctor at the time. So I did that. And she was always kind of like the friend that was throwing all the like fantastical tidbits at me and kind of giving me lifestyle advice. And so I was like, this is who I trust. Went to the Chinese medicine doctor. They cleared the ulcer. Acne started to heal. I no longer really struggle with that cystic acne. And I think at that point, it was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I was like, changed.
That's incredible. And before
Yeah.
then, you've never experienced TCM.
Before then, I had never really experienced Chinese medicine. I was familiar with acupuncture, but I had never gone and experienced it myself.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
And I know, like, having that happen to you in your early 20s is, like, so difficult, specifically
Hmm.
at that time of life. I mean, I have struggled with acne at various times of my life. I
Yeah.
think most women have,
Hmm.
especially just right out of college. You're feeling so insecure. I'm
Yeah.
sure that was, like, really difficult for you, but now I know your skin looks beautiful.
Yeah,
So
Thank
I
you.
will say to
thank you.
anyone out there who's maybe struggling with something like that, that there's hope. So after you kind of have this experience with traditional Chinese medicine, your health is basically upended. You feel
Hmm.
like amazing. How did you then go about becoming a traditional Chinese medicine doctor and eventually creating your own business? Would love to hear
Yeah.
that
So,
walkthrough.
just a little bit more background. I was always somebody who was in the healthcare kind of realm. I grew up in a family of doctors, internal medicine and psychiatry to be specific. And that was kind of originally what I thought my life was going to be. So, I actually used to work as an EMT in DC when I was living there at the time, was very exposed to Western medicine. And so, this was really like a major pivot in my
Mhm.
life and what I thought I was going to be doing. But it really just sort of still was very much rooted in I still want to practice healthcare. I just found that I resonated with Chinese medicine a lot more because I found it to be way more effective in my personal case, as well as a lot more attentive to my own particular healthcare and like my own health and details. And so that was kind of how I decided, like, okay, this is the path for me. And then from there, you have to do a 4 to 5 year minimum program to get licensed, accredited, get your master's, then your doctorate. So it's quite lengthy and quite intense. I think in America, especially, it's oftentimes where if you didn't grow up with it culturally,
Mhm.
it's probably somewhere that you're going to be referred to as sort of like a last resort of places. And so we get the most difficult chronic of cases. If someone hasn't been exposed before, we oftentimes end up with somebody who comes with you with like several lab reports, diagnostics, blood work, everything that you sort of have to interpret into the lens of Chinese medicine and then be able to help. So that's kind of, I guess, the long spiel of how I got here and how it's still very integrative.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
it's so like interesting as you mentioned you grew up
Hmm.
with a family of doctors, very rooted in Western
Yeah.
medicine. And so how is that kind of journey shifting your mindset and also just, communicating the benefits of Chinese medicine to your parents, to your family,
Mm-hmm.
and those around you who don't really know the benefits of TCM yet?
Yeah, I think honestly, it they were very accepting when I told them that this is what I was planning on doing. I think if anything, they were just kind of like, we don't really know a lot about it, so could you inform us? And so I think the very first thing I honestly did was get my mom to experience acupuncture.
Mhm.
And she was so thrown off because I remember she said she had a point put in her foot and she could feel it in her chest and it freaked her out. She was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "That is acupuncture. That is your fascial network communicating." And I think it was a really cool way for her to really see, like, real time, this is how it works. And I think from there, you really just sort of have to get used to explaining it because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't really understand what chi means or what, energy is, even from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. So you really have to get familiar with that.
Yeah, I mean, you taught me what chi
Yeah.
clock was
Yeah.
yesterday. So can you explain what it is and how that kind of, ties all together
Yeah.
in your body?
I'm going to take it a step backwards.
Yeah.
And so, qi, when we look at the actual character, like the simplified Chinese character, it's derived from air and food being combined into one. And so, when we look at those two words, we can think of qi as that is which, or that of which is the most substantial for our life force, our vitality, our energy. And so the chi clock that you're referring to essentially is a 24-hour clock broken into 3-hour time increments in which each organ system has its chi sort of functioning most optimally. So you and I were kind of talking about how between the hours of 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. are the times of the liver and the gallbladder specifically. And that's when we really want those organs to really be able to reset, restore. So we want to make sure that we're asleep. That way the chi cycle can fully complete and basically rejuvenate them for the next day. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I know traditional Chinese medicine has very recently actually
Hmm.
gained a lot of ground. I know
Yeah.
that you kind of like you found it really before I feel like it came to the forefront of like the
Yeah.
internet, and I feel like in general a lot of like Eastern trends from like China, Korea, etc. are now a
Hmm.
lot more accepted in the US.
Hmm.
But for someone who is super skeptical of traditional Chinese medicine, which a lot of Americans are,
Yeah.
what would be kind of like one tenet that you think is super important and core that you think we're kind of missing in Western medicine or like our health that maybe we should learn about or like
Hmm.
understand?
I would say that we really need to learn how to be preventative here.
Okay.
So, thinking of our day to day lifestyle and habits as part of medicine is a big component of traditional Chinese medicine because it's not just a practice of internal medicine. It's far greater than that, right? It's like a way of life and it's a way of really living intentionally and with, purpose behind every action that you take. So I would say we should look at our food as medicine. We should look at, how much our movement impacts what's going on. We need to really pay attention to our stress. We should be paying attention to if we're waking up in the morning and feeling groggy and if we need a coffee to survive, like that's an indicator that we have something to work on. And so I would say, yeah, preventatively is the best way to go.
like, it's a lot more holistic, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, Western medicine is super symptom-based,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Which obviously has its place. I don't
Mhm.
think either is good nor bad.
Mhm.
Do you think that, like, Western doctors when they're in training should be exposed to Eastern medicine and maybe both sides so we can, like, kind of see both sides and would improve the healthcare system?
1000%.
Mhm.
I actually had a colleague in school who's a pediatrician out in Cobble Hill,
Okay.
and he is now a doctor of Chinese medicine as well. And
Oh,
I think that is
wow.
so fabulous because
Yeah, it's
now these
amazing.
children that he treats in his office as a
Mhm.
pediatrician are going to be exposed to both
And their
East and
parents
West. Yeah.
also. Yeah.
And even beyond that, Camwo, which is one of the greatest, longest running herbal pharmacies here in New York City for traditional Chinese medicine prescriptions, the owner is actually also a PharmD. And so I think that really goes
Sorry,
to
what is
show you.
that? What's a
Oh,
PharmD?
it is a doctor of pharmacology.
Pharmacy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so essentially when you combine, that like metaphysical, energetic component of traditional herbal Chinese medicine with the actual chemistry behind it, the biochemistry, you can really start to see how much overlap there is and how much synergy there is between the two.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
I mean, that is really important. I feel
Yeah.
like I mentioned to you and Brooke
Mhm.
knows, like when I was training for the marathon, I got tendonitis and I
Mhm.
went straight to the podiatrist. Nothing was working. And so my parents, who love acupuncture
Mhm.
and Eastern medicine, told me to go see an acupuncturist. And at that time, I didn't really realize why. How
Yeah.
is that connected? Why do I need to go to acupuncture when I can just go to, PT
Mhm.
or go back to the podiatrist? I did go to acupuncture a few times. My leg was healed.
Yeah.
It was like magic.
Yeah.
It was really incredible to just kind of see something happen that I didn't think was possible before, and something
Mhm.
that you don't even think to even take that first step.
Yeah.
And so having that, both sides, as you mentioned, of the Eastern West and Western is super important. And
Mhm.
I hope everyone listening and in the States will experience Chinese medicine as well. But
Yeah.
something I also find really interesting is not it's not just acupuncture. You
Mhm.
mentioned, herbs, all
Right.
these different types of, foods and teas you can drink, this beautiful soup
Mhm.
that we have in front of us. Everything's really tied together.
Right.
So how do you kind of think of that in your own practice? And then how do you kind of communicate that to your patients as well?
Like, how do I tell them that there are multiple aspects to
Yeah.
Chinese medicine?
Mhm.
Well, I think the easiest way to answer that is that these are the pillars of Chinese medicine. So, Chinese medicine has acupuncture as one pillar. Then we have the herbal therapy, which is another pillar. We have lifestyle, food, dietary guidance. That's another pillar. We have moxibustion, which is an entirely separate pillar of its own. And then we have like Qigong, Tai Chi, the forms of movement as well. So, there are all of these different components that kind of go into practicing Chinese medicine as a synergistic, like whole bodied medicine. Something that you brought up that I kind of wanted to touch on a
Mhm.
little bit was you mentioned that I liked how you mentioned that you went to the podiatrist for the tendonitis.
Yeah.
And then we go to PT for like an isolated issue. So Chinese medicine treats everything very differently in the sense that we look at everything being interconnected. So it's not just about if you have one issue in your foot, you go to one specific doctor for your foot and only your foot. We're going to treat your digestion. We're going to treat your stress. We're going to look at your nervous system. We're really going to focus on bringing you back to balance, not just
Mm.
based on that one inflammation that's happening on the ankle or the foot, but also full body systematically, like what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense because I
Hmm.
remember, like, I had needles in my head, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Why are you doing that?" Like, it's my foot, but it really was really great for balancing
Hmm.
and kind of reset my whole body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to also just talk a little bit more about SYI and set your
Yeah.
intention acupuncture. How do you decide of all of the pillars of, traditional Chinese medicine that was what you wanted to focus on? Maybe tell us a little bit about your journey about opening your own practice. I know there were some steps
Yeah.
there.
So, funny enough, I have always been the person that has said I want to start my own business,
Okay.
and I saw my mom do it. She had her private practice. She still has her private practice, but
That's
she's in
incredible.
Tennessee, and so that was something that I think was very important to me, regardless of what type of medicine I decided to practice in the future. And then when it came to really starting SI or set your intention, I honestly spent a good amount of time thinking about the name, thinking about like, okay, how do I want to like brand this, business? And for a long time, I was like, should I name it after my initials? And I really didn't want to do that because I wanted it to reflect the patient's journey. Like, I want it to be about you, whoever steps in, as opposed to me, the practitioner. So that's why I kind of came up with set your intention acupuncture. And acupuncture in general is a very intentional practice, right? Like each needle has a purpose. It's not just, we're putting it in one spot hoping that something comes up. If you actually look at the textbooks that are like 3,000 years old, you'll see that each and every point has a specific indication, a specific purpose, and a different intention. And also the way that you manipulate the needle really changes how it's going to be received by the body. So keeping all of that in mind, I kind of brainstormed quite a bit. And then I thought about the acronym SYI because it's kind of like a double entendre. It's saying set your intention, but it's also a reminder to like let go, to like create space, to breathe very deeply so that you have that space to really intentionally receive what you've put forth. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I love that. And I think especially in New York City, I think we all need that. I will also
hmm
say, like, walking into your office, it feels like very much a sanctuary and
Mhm.
really peaceful and
Thank you.
calm. And like, it does not feel like a medical office at all. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely feels like very spa-like.
Uh-huh.
Even though obviously you were doing medical procedures. But would love to talk about too is I know a lot of times, especially here,
Yeah.
people turn to TCM out of desperation. As you
hmm
mentioned, they've kind of gone through a lot of Western, options and are like looking to you as a last resort. So how are you as a small business owner, like promoting yourself, trying to like encourage people to like maybe come to you before they're
Mm,
desperate? How are they finding you?
yeah.
And there is like just a practical standpoint of Western medicine is covered by insurance and TCM often isn't. How
hmm
do you sort of fight that and how do
Yeah.
you promote yourself?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, everybody has the right to make their own decision.
Of course.
But I think something in terms of like marketing myself, in terms of like putting Psy out there, I pretty much was just like, I guess I'm gonna be on TikTok now. And so I feel like TikTok, Instagram, I've never paid for marketing. I've never paid for any like advertising because honestly, I don't even know who pays attention. Funny enough, this is like a side story for anybody out there trying to start their own business. If you are trying to start a PLLC specifically, which is a professional LLC,
Mhm.
which is then mandated by the Department of Education in New York State, you have to run an ad for 6 weeks in both a local and a statewide newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the most bizarre thing I've ever paid for in
Yeah.
my entire life because I was literally wondering, like, who is looking at
It's
this?
really weird.
Like,
We had to do it too. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
such a strange
it's such a strange
law.
yeah, it's such a strange antiquated law, and I remember thinking, like, I'm not gonna pay for advertising that's old school because it doesn't work, like, those are not and no offense, but, like, the people reading the newspaper, I don't think those are the people that are gonna come to me
I think
ultimately.
they're a little skeptical about
Yeah,
TCM,
exactly, yeah,
most
they're, like,
likely.
a fully,
Yeah,
twice
exactly.
This is
generation
fake,
removed
yeah.
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 Yeah, but I think, that's kind of how I approached my marketing, and then even beyond that, I feel like it's just very integral to who I am. Anybody that knows me kind of knows that I do traditional Chinese medicine, and I think it kind of sparks a little bit of interest, and it's like, "Oh, how did you end up there?" And I think honestly, just by sharing my story and kind of going through the motions of life, I've been able to really, like, start to build the space and build the practice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about your space and how it looks
Mhm.
like a sanctuary, and you
Thank
mentioned
you.
you host different wellness events.
Yeah.
So tell us about the community building aspect of,
Mhm.
yourself and your business, and what kind of, events do you focus on, and why those events as well.
Yeah. Well, I think talking about just the community building aspect, something that I did was I kind of took people along the journey of like creating the space. So you guys got to come in and see it when it's kind of more furnished, more like ready to go. Originally, when I leased the space, it was, a blank canvas. I didn't have any furniture. And so I was like, well, the name is Set Your Intention. I'm going to be really intentional about it. I'm going to lime wash the walls by myself. I'm going to take down this ridiculous blue tile that was from the previous tenant and I'm really going to install these shelves. I'm going to slowly bring in artwork. I'm going to find these like vintage 1800s workstations to work off of. So I was really specific about kind of bringing one piece of furniture in at a time. And in the same way, I kind of approached the community building aspect like that as well, where I was like, I want to get people in the door. I know that my private practice is definitely a little bit more on the expensive side when it comes to healthcare, especially for people in their 20s, their 30s. But I was thinking, well, what can I do to at least make this a little bit more accessible? And it's by hosting events in this giant space that I have. And so I'll host like a monthly acupuncture and yoga series. I've got an acupuncture and sound bath series. I really love that
Mm.
one because I love both of them, but I think that one's really nice because it just lets people like fully drift away into like acupuncture bliss. And then I've also done like really cool like wine tastings with Chinese herbs. And then I've done,
Ooh,
yeah, I just did that. That was a big one. And then
wow.
different talks, different gua sha workshops. So I feel like I've really been able to kind of explore what I can do in this actual space and kind of building a community and inviting people in who otherwise may not come for
Yeah,
like an individual appointment. And I also think it makes acupuncture more approachable
totally.
because it shows them it's really not as scary as getting a vaccine, right? And
Mhm.
I'm pro vaccine, but like I just want to say, but like I do
Because a
think
lot of people are scared of needles. A
a
lot
lot
of
of
people
people
are
are scared
really
of
Yeah,
scared of
needles.
I'm
needles.
Yeah,
terrified of needles.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and like
Yeah.
acupuncture is, I don't know, at least from you, I probably would never have gone without have meeting you,
Yeah.
honestly, through this podcast. I'm all like, honestly, it's not really in my wheelhouse,
Uh-huh.
but I went and I was like, honestly, I feel nothing. This is great. Like
Yeah.
it was really relaxing and the needles are so thin.
Yeah.
They're
They're thinner
really,
than a hair follicle.
yeah,
So I think when people
Wow.
experience that, they're
yeah,
kind of like, oh.
Mhm.
And
it's
I
super
think if
different.
anything, like you guys said, like you slept so well, your stress was reduced, like you really feel that full body. And I think that's really what changes the game for a lot of people when they finally try it out.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember, like, as I was laying down, like, I was feeling, tingles on one side
Hmm.
of my arm and then, like, my head, so I could kinda see, I guess, my chi being restored.
Hmm.
Tell us about, like, the science behind that,
Yeah.
of acupuncture.
There are a couple of different theories in the way that we look at acupuncture biomedically. And I do want to say that traditional Chinese medicine was originally and has always been a framework not based on pure biomedicine, the way that we look at it. So sometimes it can be difficult to translate a lot of these concepts that are rooted in like Taoist theory into biomedical terms. That
Can
being
you say
said,
what is Taoist theory? Sorry, just for
yeah.
like I like for our
Yeah,
listeners that don't
no.
know what
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah. So a lot of the philosophies and the principles of Chinese medicine come from Taoism, come from Confucianism. And so like the concept of qi, for example, is a
Okay.
Taoist principle. And so some of these things are really difficult to translate. But that being said, I think the easiest way that I can really start to break it down biomedically is when you think about the herbal medicine component, that is pure internal medicine. That is biochemistry actually working inside the body. There are tons of studies that you can find online that are, you know, showing the efficacy of a Chinese herbal formula such as Xiaoyaosan versus like a typical SSRI such as like Lexapro or escitalopram, which is what it's called generically, and kind of showing how they kind of have very similar effects, and one isn't necessarily better than the other because they both biochemically are doing the same thing inside the body. But then when we think about the acupuncture needles, I think one of the theories that exists is that it kind of mocks or mimics that of like your opioid receptors. So it's kind of allowing you to essentially like relax and ease out that way. There's another theory that states that it essentially is kind of working off the central nervous system. I think that's personally the one that I align with when you think about how the central nervous system literally connects to every aspect of your body, your physical body, and you put in needles in all these areas. It is firing signals within the brain to kind of pay attention, resolve this. And then there's another one that kind of focuses on like the fascial networks. And, fascia is something that Western medicine kind of sort of understands, but I would say it's very much untapped when it comes to that. And so when you think about, like you're saying, like having the needle in your head for your foot, like why would you do that? It's because there are fascial networks that cover your
And
entire
that's like
body.
fat, right?
uh,
Fascial, it's like
Fascia is more actually above fat. It's not
okay,
fat, but it's like a very thin connective tissue,
okay, so
kind of right beneath the skin surface, right above the muscular level of
okay,
the skin or the body. And so, um, it all sort of connects. So the easiest way to think about it is like when you get a deep tissue massage and
okay,
the therapist
left,
really starts going in on that spot where they find, that knot or that rock, that is a fascial knot.
okay,
That's essentially areas where there's been a lot of constriction, reduced blood flow, and by having that massage, you're breaking that up. You're kind of reducing that inflammation.
okay,
Yeah.
amazing.
I don't know.
Wow.
I hope that answered your
No, no,
Yeah,
it
question.
did. I
no.
mean, it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
It's very
incredibly
Yeah.
educational.
interesting and
Okay.
educational.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, it's honestly, it's just it. I mean, I should understand this, but
Hmm.
it's such a completely new world to me that
Mhm.
like I feel
Hmm.
like I have no familiarity with it. It's obviously so intense and there's so much education.
Yeah.
Even the fact that you have to study for 5 years to be
Yeah.
a TCM doctor
Hmm.
is probably new for a lot of people, including me. So it's
Hmm.
incredible. And also there are like so many things about our own bodies. I feel like that we don't even know. Like, I didn't even
Mhm.
know what fascia was until today. Right?
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was fat,
Yeah.
I think. I was like, "Okay, like,
Yeah.
great, that's interesting." So it's just great for our own self-knowledge as well. And, just take a step back from the education. I know originally before you had PSY, you were kind of didn't have your own practice, you were kind of sharing a practice, and then you had, like, a really amazing event occur, and you as and that was kind of like your sign to open your own practice. I'd love to talk about that and sort of, that process and now kind of where PSY's going to.
Yeah. So yeah, I still had PSY actually. I was
Okay.
working private practice, but I was sharing a space with a colleague of mine who on the Upper East Side. She's amazing, she's wonderful, but when you're splitting a space with someone, that means you're only going to have a few dedicated days here and there. And I kind of had a bigger picture in mind. I knew that I really wanted to go into private practice all by myself, and I really wanted to have a place where I could work out of 7 days a week, 8 days a week, even that doesn't exist. But like I really wanted to give it my all. So that's kind of something I'd been teetering with. I didn't know anything about New York commercial real estate. I didn't even know where to start. A good friend of mine referred me to her property managers. I reached out to them on a whim. I was like, hey, I am interested in potentially touring some commercial spaces. Could you show me around? We set up an appointment. I kid you not, that morning, I get this email from a Hulu executive that says, hey, we're looking for someone to come and work this event for the premiere of the show or the season of the show. Would you be interested in providing ear seeds for like 200 tastemakers, network executives, celebrities, et cetera, the like? And I literally thought it was spam because I was like, me?
You're
Wow.
like, "This can't be real."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
You're like,
was
"Is this a Nigerian prince too?"
yeah, I know, exactly. I was like, there's no way this is real. And
Yeah.
I was actually on FaceTime with my best friend at the time, and I read it out loud to her, and I was like, do we believe this?
Is
And
this
so
fake?
we went
Yeah.
down on LinkedIn, like rabbit hole. We were like verifying that this
You're
human
like, "Is
was
this the right
real.
domain?" Yeah.
Yeah, I even called the hotel where the event was going to be held. And funny enough, the front desk girl was like, yeah, I don't see that on our calendar. And so at this point, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? But I don't know I guess I decided to judge beyond her statement. And I was like, okay, I guess it's real. And yeah, I worked with Hulu. And I think that was the day that I really was like, this is if I was going to ever receive a sign from the universe,
Yeah.
this is that sign. And that's how I kind of decided to jump in and sign the lease, get the space,
Wow.
get it going.
That's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
that was your first event.
That was I did like smaller ear seed events leading up
Mhm.
to that, but I had never had 200 people in front of me.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That
That's
is a sign.
incredible.
It
That's
was
awesome. Wait, what
yeah.
show is it? Can we watch it?
Yeah, it is Reasonable Doubt, which is a show by Kerry Washington, and I
Ooh.
do want to say that Kerry Washington and I went to the same alma mater.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
Also,
gosh.
love an
Full
invisible string Carrie
circle.
over here.
yeah,
I
and
love Carrie Washington. She's amazing.
I
Yeah.
do too, and I remember like watching her commencement speech at GW because it was a few years before I even got there, and I remember thinking like, wow, that's so cool. Like, you kind of like when you have somebody that you admire and you look up to, you never really think you're ever going to meet them in life. And
Totally.
so when I finally got to meet her at this event, I literally told her that I was like, we're both GW girls, like out here making it, and I'm sure she looked at me like, what?
No, I'm sure she loved it. I feel
No,
like she
she
loved it. She was
loved
probably like,
it.
wow, like that's awesome. Everyone
Yeah.
loves like a connection if people loved it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Especially like where they went to
Honestly.
college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 But I was like, oh my God, I would. I would say something really embarrassing, but here we are.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
That's
Well, I
amazing.
feel like that is definitely a sign from the universe.
Yeah.
And thank God that happened and
hmm
you started your beautiful practice.
Thank you.
And I know you talked a little bit about how when you were younger, you've always wanted to start your own
Yeah.
practice or something. What do you think, if there's any, experiences from childhood or just kind of, characteristics and traits that you have, what do you think
Mm.
made you really take the bullet and open your own practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. And I don't even know if this is like safe to say, but I grew up in the South and I'm a brown woman, obviously. And I grew up with I was golfing and
Okay.
and my instructors were a lot of white men,
Mhm.
white old
Yeah.
Southern men.
Yep.
And like when I saw these people's ambition and I saw that like they made happen whatever they wanted to make happen, and I saw my mom do it in front of me, I was like, there is nothing in this world that says I can't do something if I put my mind to it. Right. Because like
Wow.
a dude that is like relatively unqualified can go and get whatever position and whatever job role, right? Like we see that all the
Yep.
time. Why can't women do that? So I feel like I've just got this like fearlessness inside of me. And I
Wow.
have examples, right? Like anytime you see someone in front of you who's accomplished something that you want to do yourself, it'll happen. Like for example, I really, really wanted to be featured or asked, about something in Vogue, and it happened. And I feel like there was a while where I was like, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Like maybe that's just like a far off dream because who am I, this like little bumpkin from Tennessee? And then I ended up getting like interviewed for
Yeah,
something
this
about
amazing
I
article.
love
I
SYI.
read that. It was
that.
great.
Yeah.
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 Um, I love that. Honestly, it's to our listeners that literally have the audacity of
Mhm.
mediocre white man
Of
on
a
the
white man.
outskirts.
I'm
It's like so real though. I have to remind myself of that as
Oh,
well. I mean,
1000%.
yeah.
like you kind of put your own ceilings up a lot. I think we forget that.
Hmm.
Like if you do not push yourself in front of people, no one else will, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't believe you can do it, no one will,
Yeah,
right?
I think you're gonna be your number one advocate.
Yeah,
So anything that you put your mind to, like if you've decided you're gonna do it, you just have to really put in the work. If it doesn't happen as quickly as you want it to, that doesn't mean it's never gonna happen.
for
It just
sure.
means that you have to keep going.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I grew up in Texas,
Yeah.
so
Okay. So you get it.
yeah,
You get it.
exactly. I love that story. And what do you think has been the hardest part of being a founder and a business owner?
Ooh, I think it's all the things that people don't see. Like
Yeah.
I am janitor.
You are
I
everything.
am everything.
You're
And I think
admin, you're
yeah,
Payroll.
admin, I'm
Yeah.
social media advisor, I'm social media content person, I am model. Like I think
You look like a model, so that
Yeah, no,
helps.
we literally thought you were a
Literally,
model.
we're like, yeah.
but when it comes to like setting up the camera, being like, am I getting myself in the frame? Like it's a whole process. And so I think the hardest part is really just not really having anybody to lean on in the normal operating hours. Like it's
Um,
different if you like reach out to like colleagues, friends, or get someone hired here and there to come and help you when you need it. But for the most part, all of those decisions come back on you. And I think that's really where the founder journey gets kind of complicated. And then I also joke that it's very isolating because
Yeah.
um, you don't have colleagues, you don't have coworkers. And when you do have someone come in the space, it's because, they're coming to talk about themselves for their own health. And so it's like kind of a very isolating journey in that way. So I am now a FaceTime cold caller and I'll just like call people in the work week and they'll be like, "What are you doing?"
They're like, I'm at work.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's hard because obviously, I mean, you are a solo founder, but
Yeah.
then like your day to day is you are one on one with clients who are struggling or
Yeah.
patients, and
Hmm.
you have to be completely neutral and supportive no
Right.
matter like what's going on.
Hmm.
And you're kind of have to search for your own community in your own way.
Hmm.
Have you been able to kind of find that within the medical profession?
I mean, absolutely. I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends who have gone into like private practice.
Yeah.
A lot of really incredible colleagues who have pursued that with traditional Chinese medicine and even outside of traditional Chinese medicine. So, definitely something that's not like, even though I'm saying it feels isolated, it's not actually an isolated sensation, right? Because multiple people are experiencing this at the same time. That being said, too, I feel like there's also this um, I don't know, there's just something that makes you like okay with the discomfort of being alone too
Yeah.
in
Mm.
that as well. Yeah.
Because there's no one to ask, right? So you just
Yeah.
have to make decisions,
Yeah.
which is a little terrifying, especially since you're newer to your profession,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that's just confidence too and experimentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which
Fake it till you make it.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But I know what
um,
I'm doing in terms
Yeah.
of the medicine.
of course. But I mean, like
Just in case.
sometimes you got to make a choice and
Yeah.
see what
Mhm.
happens, right? Of
Yeah.
course. And I think TCM too definitely encourages like long term, relationship with the
Mhm.
patient. You have to try like different things as well. So it's like not always clear cut. I want to talk about too about the lovely herbs we have here today. I know that you're
Yeah.
also starting another sort of business, so that
Yeah.
kind of goes along with your current. Would love to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so like I said, like I came to Chinese medicine for my own skincare. I'm actually pursuing a fellowship or a specialization in TCM dermatology right now. So I fly back and forth to London
Oh
to
wow.
pursue that and study that
Oh.
under this incredible doctor, Mazen Al Kafaji. And in that process, also, I knew that I wanted to dip my toes into sharing TCM skincare with people while I'm still sort of figuring out and navigating like exactly how I want to do that. In my community events, I've been serving this soup, which is a very traditional Chinese medicine based soup, very rooted in Chinese culture and across a lot of East Asian cultures as well. It's got the jujubes, the tremella mushroom, the goji berries, the pear. But then being Indian and kind of having this background that I grew up with, I also wanted to incorporate. I just like to play in the kitchen and I like to kind of mix and match and see what works. And I do this with everything that I cook now and everything that I create. So I just sort of started making this soup for people to enjoy, but I started adding in these spices to kind of increase the digestibility of it and also give it a little bit of a different flavor profile. So what we have in front of us is essentially that. So it's really, really lovely. It's great for your skin, great for your gut, really great at producing collagen within the skin, holding on to hyaluronic acid in the skin with the tremella mushroom. And then it's got the digestives like fennel, clove,
Mm.
cardamom, cinnamon. All of those are going to help move your gut along. So you'll also find that you're going to get cleared out in the best way possible.
Mhm.
So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Wait, that's
It smells
incredible. It
amazing.
smells
Yeah.
literally like Christmas. Should we try it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this
I
is
would
great.
love.
Okay.
I'm
Amazing.
super excited.
Oh, yay. Should we cheers?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Obviously. To
I don't know.
sigh, set your intention.
Yes.
Sigh,
To sigh.
yay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
And it's got this like really rich color, which I
Mm.
love.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Wow, it's delicious.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh my gosh, that's not what I was expecting.
Right?
Me neither.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It is really good.
You could also like it's like a tea.
Mm-hmm. So
How should you eat this? Like before meals, after meals?
I would say like before or after. It's kind of like a dessert soup. You could really go either or.
Okay. Like
It
once a
doesn't have any
day?
added sugar. I just use the
Mhm.
pear
Mm.
and the cinnamon, which really gives it that like sweetness that you
Yeah.
taste. And when you cook it down for so long, it really starts to caramelize in a way.
Mm,
So you'll find that it kind of has that like residual caramelly sweetness as well.
Mm.
it's delicious.
Honestly, you could eat it in the morning. You could eat it at night. Up to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
And are
Um,
you so do you give this to your patients right now?
I don't really give this to my patients that often. I really serve it at events mostly.
Okay.
That being said, I've had so many people ask me if I'm going to sell this because they're like
yes.
obsessed. And
It is
so
really good.
this is kind of what I think our inaugural product is going to
Mm.
be. This beauty soup turned
I love that.
blend of my culture and blend of my study.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And so
Yeah.
would
I
you
love it.
ever, I mean, you just mentioned you might sell this, but would you ever like start a line of herbs, food products, as you mentioned, you like cooking, like, skincare? Is that
Mhm.
in the cards for you?
It is in the cards. I do have an LLC that I actually started before I even started Set Your Intention Acupuncture. So
Ooh.
I have taxes on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it is definitely something that's in the works. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Well, I am so excited for you. I think
Thank you.
you have such an incredible business and just like spirit and energy. And I'm really excited that we got to have this incredible episode with you. But we always end on this question
Yeah.
with a lot of young listeners. What advice would you give a young person looking to start their own business?
Mm. I think I would tell them to crumple away any fears that they have because you're never going to start a business with something kind of inhibiting you from doing it, right? So if you're like, it's not good enough, it's not perfect enough, or like, and when this thing happens, I'll start it, like, no, no, scratch all that. Like, just start because I promise you there are a million things that you're going to learn as you go because I don't have really a business background. I know a lot of people do, but regardless, even if you come from like, a background of business and economics, or if you don't come from that background, you're going to have situations thrown at you where you just have to make a decision and go. And that's ultimately, I think, what allows a business to really thrive as well and survive. And in a space where it can be really competitive, especially in a city like New York, it's just all about like keeping going no matter what. So,
I
yeah.
love that. Well, thank you. I learned so much. This was so
Me
educational. This
too.
was so yummy.
Yay.
Where can we find you in real life and on social media?
Yeah, so Set Your Intention Acupuncture is in Nomad. It's on the intersection of 27th and Broadway. And then the social media is at SYI.acu. So S for set, Y for your, I for intention, .acu. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We loved this. We learned so much. I already feel healthier.
Yay.
Feel like drinking your amazing beauty soup. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us at Womansplain Pod on all socials and email us at hello@womansplainpod.com for any questions. And everyone,
Go set your
go set your
intention.
intention.
Yeah.
Like exactly. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.